actionfigureresource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.
Hot Toys Age of Ultron Captain America. Hot Toys come as standard in brown remailer boxes for protection. The heavy box inside has a gatefold window but obscures Cap safely behind plastic, so boxed is definitely not the optimum way to keep him on your shelf. The box art is colourful with the Avengers logo and Cap on display. You are left in no doubt that what's inside is special. I will confess that I was slightly intimidated with bringing him out of the box. It wasn't very fiddly, but I left him there most of the day while I finished my work and scrupulously washed my hands before touching him to ensure coffee or sausage grease came nowhere near. I'd advise you to do the opening nowhere near children. My 8-year-old wanted to help, but was gravely instructed to stay in her half of the room. Bless her heart, she's always very gentle with action figures anyway, but I didn't want to risk a snapped limb or a scratched shield. This is everything I could want in a Captain America. He has an alternate unmasked head. That's very important for lending a model emotional complexity. What struck me, and this is something that rarely translates to still images, are the tiny, detailed, shining dots in his eyes which catch the light. This owes more in its heritage to dolls than figures. He has 8 hands in total. One of the left ones is open with splayed fingers. The opposing right has an extended grip, ideal to be posed holding the edge of the shield. 2 of these gauntlets are punching fists. 2 more are loosely gripping and are thus ideal to hang the additional helmet from when he is wearing his Steve Rogers head. The remaining 2 have internal magnets. This is a feature, apparently, of the Ultron cap and no other, since in the movie he has a Stark Tech electromagnetic system in his arm gear. What that means practically is that this red shield, unlike the World War II or Avengers Assemble or Winter Soldier or Civil War versions, does not have the classic leather straps. In effect, the shield, when held close to either arm when he is wearing these hands, will attach itself to him. There is technically a fold-down metal handle on either side that can hook onto the fingers of several of these hands, but it's not required, and it's actually steadier and more reliable with the magnetism feature. I was, I'll confess, a little iffy at first because it seemed like it might fall off and it wobbles a little when you move him, but 3 things set my mind at ease. 1. There's no fiddling with delicate handles and fingers. 2. If, perish the thought, he were to fall from my shelf, no handles would break. The shield would simply come away harmlessly. And 3. Attaching it to his back harness, also magnetized with a single deft movement, is undeniably awesome. 2 additional hinged ball joints are included should 1 or 2 of the already installed wrist joints break when switching hands, which is an intense relief when buying a toy like this. There is also a small, clear paddle tool designed to resituate the clothing around his neck joint when switching heads, which is a welcome and professional addition. The supplied display stand, which displays the Avengers A and a smart Captain America nameplate, has a rough, slightly sandpapery surface that is not massively pleasing to touch, but ultimately is a design factor to ensure traction and stability when standing. It's designed for support and aesthetics, not for stroking. In terms of detail, this is peerless, and I do mean that. I have never seen an action figure hit all the right notes in quite so spectacular a form in terms of detail. The face, body, hands and feet are all perfectly rendered and correctly sized, with very few concessions made to stylization. The costume is beautifully cut and hangs exactly right with a variety of textures. A minutely detailed crosshatch on the knees and elbow pads, leather-like panels on the legs, arms and trunk. The star on his chest is shiny and stands out across the room. Nearly all other parts of the costume that are supposed to be metal are painted in a way that suggests some wear. The belt is a 2-layered leather-looking fabric with molded pouch accessories. The one tiny problem I had was the belt buckle, which came straight off and was only held on loosely with 2 short pegs. It's not a fastening measure, purely decorative. Clearly this is not designed to be removed, but if it were to fall off, if the figure is knocked, my office would not be hoovered until the piece is found. Like the most precious and irreplaceable of contact lenses, it would have to be scoured for, close up. There is no reason this should not be securely fastened onto the figure. I won't take a point off, but I should. You could of course glue it on if yours is the same way, but I am reticent to get glue anywhere near this figure. The shield is a magnificent work of art unto itself. The figure is too, but the shield, which is fast becoming as iconic a movie prop as the One Ring or James Bond's Walther PPK, is wonderfully rendered here, with firmly machined lines, a perfect convex curve, naked vibranium interior, and a matte finish. The costume has Red Avenger's A's on the shoulder to indicate his affiliation, and eagle-eyed viewers will note that Steve removes these partway through Civil War, having left the team. It's worth noting that a battling variant of the Civil War version exists, which stands atop a gorgeously rendered pile of rubble diorama base and bears scratch marks on the shield from Black Panther. This is definitely one to get for collectors who want the rare and chase versions. Now, as far as posability goes, this is not quite up there with Marvel Legends, but it comes close, and obviously each movement has far more in common with the human body than those do. Notably, because of the costume fabric, the waist doesn't really pivot, the thighs cannot be raised too far, and the shoulder joints cannot be moved with quite the same immediacy and to the same extent. The knees, ankles, elbows and wrists all can though, and the head can be moved any which way you like. At the time of writing, I have owned him for a few weeks. I cannot entertain parting with him. This was not a transitory or testing the waters figure for me. It represents the definitive scale model on-screen Steve Rogers, and a treasured artifact to hold on to. My slight worry is that now I also want an Iron Man, a Black Widow, a Hulk, a Thor, a Star-Lord, and a Winter Soldier, and down the line somewhere a Captain Marvel. Possibly because of the loan requiring cost, possibly because of my extreme satisfaction with just owning one of these, this did not set in as hard as I had feared. But if I ever get a second, that's when the craving will begin. I should remove a mark from the final score because of the extreme price point, and the same fear of breaking the interchangeable hands and head when switching them that I get with the NECA figures, only multiplied by a factor of 10 due to that price. However, with gentle but firm handling, it is possible to find that balance and give these luxury figures the care and handling that they deserve. That thing that separates them from other toys and even other premium action figures of comparable price, the word I've been searching for throughout this analysis to define what makes Hot Toys different, is presence. And a lot of this comes down to the world-class facial sculpting of the Hong Kong studio. Hot Toys, when they stand on your shelf, look less like a figure or a doll and more like a miniature version of the actor they are portraying, dressed in their costume. A certain imported personality is thus afforded them by virtue of the link they share with that actor, and thus Hot Toys, above all others, have a noticeable and very distinct presence. So with that aspect entirely eclipsing the minor technical worries I have, I cannot give this less than 10 out of 10. Perhaps I'm simply massaging my personal anxieties the way people cling to their video game consoles, to the point of deriding the perceived opposition. But looking at this small Steve Rogers, it is hard to see this endeavour as anything less than money well spent.
actionfigureresource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.